We're going to do the breakout sessions now. I'm going to make them 50 minutes instead of an hour, so we have a little, we still have time to connect, but, and then, maybe make lunch a little shorter, and we'll see how that goes. So, just as a reminder, so we'll be putting signs on the table. The topics are mental health first aid trainees, safe station, suicide prevention cafes, getting and using real-time data for opioid prevention and opioid overdose prevention, and looking at prevention and systems change from the substance abuse user perspective. So 5 different topics. I think we have about like 8 or so people each topic. Try to spread out. So not everyone from your community goes to the same session, obviously. And we'll be using also some of the tables over on the other end of the room so that we have a little more space.
Founder of Safe Stations. I'm letting him explain how the process came to be. But it celebrated its first birthday yesterday of 1 year. And treating, we're allowing access for more than 1,600 people just in seeking substance use disorder treatment. So, I'll let you explain.
Email to my chiefs saying, this is an unusual occurrence, this is what happened. Wouldn't it be neat if we could do something like Baby Safe Haven for people looking for help with drug abuse? Which was
a Safe Haven program 5 minutes.
What's that?
You have a Safe Haven program 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has it. So, yeah. Those of you who don't know what the Baby Safe Haven is, if I miss anything, please jump in. They'll determine with you which style of program is going to work best, whether it's remaining in outpatient and being reconnected with family, whether it's going to an in-state or out-of-state inpatient program. If you don't have insurance, it doesn't matter. They set you up with New Hampshire Medicaid. They try and tailor a program to best suit your needs and whatever substances you're trying to get help with. So what they do sign with us, and I apologize, I didn't bring it. What they do sign with us, there is a section that's a waiver of liability on this for us, so we're covered in the state or out.
I mean, it must be a fortune for you to dedicate an ALS unit for that transport.
For these
Yeah.
calls, I mean, our turnaround time is actually
Meaning the transport stays within the community?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And, with the assets that we have out there, we don't sit in the station mobile all the time.
Right.
So they're usually very close by.
You had mentioned something about a fly car working.
Well, that's the idea.
That's the idea going forward, is that essentially Safe Station 2.0 will remove the ambulance from the equation unless needed. We'll still have the ALS personnel to do the more advanced assessment, but rather than calling an ambulance out and removing that from the community, we're going to have a fly car that's basically going to operate out of my office.
Great. That's a good idea.
One car for the city?
One car for the city, yeah.
So as soon as the fly car arrives, then the
The piece of the back in service, yeah.
what do they call it? Yeah, what is a fly car? Is it something like you just have?
It's just an SUV.
So my name is Jared Owen. I'm a man in recovery, and I work for MORE, the Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery. And this group is prevention/systems change from the substance user perspective. So this fits really well with what I do at MORE. Our mission is to organize recovering individuals, families, and friends into a collective voice to educate the public about the value of recovery. So what does that mean? It means we're advocates. We want to get out there in the community. We want to hear the perspective of people in recovery and even the perspective of people that are still actively using drugs. And we want to turn that into policy change that makes life better for people in recovery and that helps people find a path to recovery. An example of something that we've done before I was with the organization is the Good Samaritan Law. Does everybody know what the Good Samaritan Law is? Everyone here should. Which allows people to call 911 in the case of an overdose without fearing prosecution for simple drug possession. And we help to write that, get that passed, and help to advertise it with the Attorney General's office. So I have a great network of friends I was able to re-engage with MIT, and actually just 2 months ago they gave me my master's degree, and I'm working for this organization that I love that's called MORE. I was very fortunate. So I lived in the Meridian House for a year, and I graduated in February of last year. Since that time, 6 of my friends that lived in that house with me are dead because of this fentanyl epidemic. And that's why I do this work I do. That's why I want to see some system change. And it's really going to take a change of culture like we saw around cigarette smoking or around drunk driving. It's eventually going to curb this. Unfortunately, these things take a lot of time, and anything we can do from a healthcare perspective to expedite this is of great interest to me. So I passed out a fact sheet that has some statistics on it, and 2% of that is spent on education and treatment programs when the majority of their inmates are dealing with substance use or mental health issues. Would help by mandating the insurance companies to do it, but we'd still need the vets to send people to. That's still a bottleneck at the level of post-detox step down, the CSS, the TSS, the transitional programs. Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery is supportive of yet, but to get a handle on this, maybe we should be starting medication-assisted treatment when people are incarcerated, which is a whole set of hurdles with the sheriff department and everyone, but
or medical detox when people are entering incarceration, so that their tolerance isn't so low when they get out over the weekend. Yeah.
And so as the current state of things, as you guys know, and I saw this when I was on the inside, somebody can be on a doctor-prescribed dose of 120 milligrams of methadone in the community. They can have a probation violation for missing an appointment or something like that, and they can be thrown in jail to detox cold turkey from that dose. And that's tantamount to torture. If you gave me a choice between being waterboarded and doing that, I would take the waterboarding all day long. So I think that along with this culture shift, getting to the sheriffs and the corrections people and talking to them.
These things are repeated every afternoon, right? So if you want to come back, they could, right? Right here.
Yes. Come back in a second.
Women in consensual health and nutrition program. I've been involved and recipient, community was a recipient of a few years back. One of the first ones.
Great, thank you. What we want to do is promote understanding of what mental health issues are in an attempt to reduce the amount of suicide risk and understand the use of, to minimize the use of dependency on alcohol and substances. When you're on heroin, it's a sign that you may have a higher risk of suicide. Right? So whether it's heroin or any other opioid, people tend to either overdose accidentally or they feel like they can't take the pain anymore and they'll overdose deliberately. So this is why it's important to understand why something like this is a great intervention for that community. As I mentioned before, 4 of the top 5 neighborhoods with the highest rate of opioid-involved overdose deaths are located in Bronx County. And when we break out the counties or these neighborhoods, we're looking at UHF. Everybody here know what a UHF is? Yes.
She's from Bronx.
I know.
I know. That's why that kind of so it's called United Hospital.
And so I ran a youth program, and so through that we were able to start mental health first aid training, so I'm a mental health first aid trainer for both adult and youth curriculum, and I do a lot of kind of coordination, bringing together other youth service providers in the city, and a youth network that's really taken off in the past couple of years of bringing these people together and getting a value out of it. So trying to kind of build our kind of community language and understanding around prevention, regardless of kind of the topic area. I'm trying to kind of shift the language to always talking about positive youth development among my peers. So I do a lot of different things. Opioid epidemic itself has kind of overshadowed some of the prevention work that we're doing. I'm taking a lot of my time to that, but I really and my heart is with youth development and youth work. And through becoming a trainer in mental health first aid, really enjoying this topic of suicide and prevention in such a way, trying to make it accessible.
Suicide prevention started descending on our community. How dare you putting stuff like this in the paper? And the issue became less about suicide, but then how we talked about it, which was very interesting to me. And when we had our second meeting, we even attracted more people, and there were some people in the room that couldn't say the word suicide. It was wild. They showed up for a suicide prevention meeting, and they couldn't get the word out of their mouth. So we learned that there was so much stigma impacted in this, probably even more so than, at least in my opinion, than what we're seeing in the opioid crisis. That somehow, no matter how open-minded you are, most people had this little piece of them that said, you know, you kill yourself, it's pretty selfish, you know. You could have done other things, and we weren't putting it in the mental health bucket. So what we've done so far, which has been very successful, is we've had 2 community conversations. Our first community conversation, we had 3 different people speaking. One was a woman who had attempted and had come out on the other side. One was a relative of someone who had completed suicide, and one was someone who was, as a teenager, was very involved in self-harm. And although the presentations were really great, the conversation afterwards was startling. So first off, community members showed up, some of them with 8x10 framed pictures of their teenage children that died from completed suicide. Right. So that, not expecting that, and already changed the whole vibe. You know, I'm thinking we're doing a good training, and all of a sudden we have this emotional thing going on that we had to respond to, and we had to sort of realize that if we're going to talk about this, then people are coming and they have some real intense drama that they're going to put on the table when we talk about
whether there was an official talk rate done or not.
Because you could be missing a large segment of people that present with mental health issues.
Yes.
And
So, yeah, I should mention that even though these are the primary selectors, we will pull an observation regardless of where it is in their incident report. So if they came to the emergency department for a broken bone, if any one of these codes show up anywhere in not just their primary diagnosis, but any of the secondary, tertiary diagnoses, we will still get them in. So it's probably not comprehensive. There are definitely people that are missing, but at least on a trend basis, we can see, you know, how things are going up and down, and we can get some general estimates of demographics. So kind of the goal with the local system data is estimates. It's never going to be efficient. They don't always match up with what the incident actually was. Sometimes it outright says poisoning/overdose, but then when you read the narrative, it turns out that the person they were the EMT was called to the scene because of a suspect overdose, but then they get there and the person is alert, they're fine, maybe they used earlier and they're just kind of tired, but it's not an overdose. And then sometimes the primary impression or the chief complaint will say something like respiratory attack or cardiac arrest. I think cardiac arrest is probably the biggest one that we see. That's like a mislabeling. But then you read the narrative and it's, you know, patient admitted to heroin use an hour prior, Narcan was used, treatment was seen. So you know that's an overdose, but it's not listed as an overdose. So when we first started doing this system, we tried desperately to just create an algorithm to do this for us. We had a formula where we filtered everything, all of these alerts we transferred to an Excel spreadsheet, and it was, you know, what's the chief complaint,
We want to train 250,000 people in mental health first aid.
What keywords were seen in the narrative, and we found that the algorithm, the best that we could do was about 82% accurate. So there was still, you know, a huge chunk of alerts that were just not
actually matching correctly once we actually read them and classified them ourselves. So again, kind of being small, we have this benefit of just reading each one individually and adding a subjective classification to it. And the reason for that is, it's not just the mislabeling in the field, but it's also keywords. Everybody writes something a different way, and every time you think that you have accounted for every possible keyword that you could get, somebody's going to use something different or use a spelling that you had no way to anticipate. And so it turns out that just reading it is the best way to do it for us anyway. Ambulance, data, at all. Great question. So,
well, it's interesting to say that it hasn't. Because I was kind of pushing our team on that. Hello.
I might be rebounding.
Thanking all of you for being totally present and engaged throughout today, because the conversations that Carrie and I heard at each of these tables have been just amazing. So you all have been giving yourselves a hand. Seriously. All right, so what I want to do is I want to start this conversation by first asking you to raise your hand if you learned something new today, because I really want to see just how good this is great. I'm glad that you all learned something new. And the other thing I want to do is just ask you to take 30 seconds or so to think about what it is that you either learned new, or what was an aha moment for you today through any of the conversations that you heard, and begin thinking about what our plenary guests had to share with us this morning, as well as what you heard throughout the conversations before and after lunch. So take about 30 seconds to think about that, and then I'm just going to ask for volunteers, popcorn style, to share that information. And Wendy's been kind enough to actually be our scribe for this session. She said she was a first grade teacher, so we know that we'll be able to read her notes.
That's so nice.
So thank you. Let's begin sharing. Who would like to share first? What is an aha moment or something that you learned that was new? Claude.
Thinking about Catherine's comment this morning about the SAMHSA office and the regional presence. I didn't realize that was new the last 5 years, so that was something that was an aha moment for me.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
I sat in on the Cambridge Breakout and was blown away by the kinds of data that they're collecting and will be collecting. The epi, I don't know where she did. Oh yeah, that was really extraordinary.
Epi rock star here.
Yeah, and the way that that's going to inform how Cambridge is able to address substance use. That was really exciting.
I was blown away by that conversation too. It was very interesting.
I taught her everything she knows.
All right, of course. I did not even.
Claude, you got good people working for you.
So
yes.
Some of us from the Fall River Contingency had the aha moment that we think we can do safe stations.
Whoa! Good. Nice. Wow. Think about who's going to be involved in that.
Oh my God!
Yeah, start thinking about who would be involved in that effort, and you've got some role models and leaders, folks that can give you some technical assistance right here within this network. That's awesome. Nice.
So, my participation in the groups has been fragmented, obviously, but what was reinforced for me is the importance of doing something together, maybe about like stigma and how that plays into a lot of this stuff, and I'm not sure what that would be, but I just think it's an important issue.
Absolutely. We'll come back to you.
And I just wanted to say in follow-up to your comment, Jose, that on May 23rd, there's going to be a statewide stigma conference run by William James College. It's actually it's in Boston, but it's statewide, and it's a whole day looking at stigma, and particularly for special populations, digging into particular issues of stigma. So if I send the information about that conference to Jose, you can It's free. You
Sure.
can enroll online. And
I'll be the portal forever.
Thank you.
And we'll also send the stuff from our World Cafe on Stigma. We'll send it also to Jose so you can use it. We'll even send you the flyer. You
Actually,
just
as
can
part
put your
of
own
my
name on
housekeeping
it.
notes at the end, I think I'm setting up a Google folder or Google Drive, so we can
Drop
stick
it.
it all in there,
We have a
so.
password protected page already, so, for the network, so.
Oh,
we
maybe
might-
we
Oh,
that
good,
might help you
yeah, so
out.
it would be
Yeah, we'll
better
talk
if we
to
put
you
it on
about
the
that.
Yeah,
alumni
and then it'll
network,
be
because then
there.
the whole
Yeah.
alumni network.
Yeah, that's
Can I
totally
play
fine.
in on something?
Absolutely.
Okay, so even though I
And then
led,
write your own note.
yes, I would. Even though I led one of the sessions, one of the things that I always find, we've been part of this since the beginning, is the sense of power that I feel when we walk in the room. That there is this feeling that we could really do something on a major basis because of all the communities that we're representing. And I would just like to make a push that last year we talked best practices. This year, Cambridge refined us to issues that were affecting us all. Next year, I'd like to see us work on advocacy and what we can do as a group together to bring about some real positive change for the Northeast.
Yeah, we're actually gonna talk about that, but I think that's obviously a good next step. Claude, and you know what? Let me grab him and then we'll come back to you, Claude.
So Bob.
Bob,
Yeah,
thank you.
I was just, I've always been kind of blown away by more, the organization and what users can, recovery people can contribute. I was more than blown away by Jared, never met him before today, but he reminded me, having been in jail, he has. I work with some people in jail. We're never going to get out until we change some things. They got life sentences. There's some brilliant people in there. And we need to figure out a way, especially those people who aren't getting out for many, many years, to use their brains and their good articulate selves and get that voice in the room somehow.
Bob, two things. Jared, I thought Jared was giving out free turkeys, which is why he's getting such a draw.
He did.
No,
The table.
well, the table, he was just drawing a crowd.
A crowd, each time we have a huge crowd.
I do want to just underscore the power of the story, the personal narrative. That is something that we can at least incorporate in some of our work.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Essential Public Health Services and the one that reads Inform, Educate, and Empower Communities About Health Issues, we tend not to get to that empowerment piece. So I do want to encourage us to do that. To Wendy's point about the advocacy, however we can do that as a collective, there's a reach that we can have. And with that, I was thinking about another aha moment tied to national nodes. And so, again, speaking on behalf of a community of health officers, NACHO is one conduit. Our mission is to be a leader, partner, catalyst, and voice for local health departments. And there may be a way for us to continue to amplify our reach. So keep that in mind. There's the National Association of Counties. Again, we tend not to use the county moniker in Massachusetts, but I know that the normal states do. So just encouraging us to think about other partners that we can at least connect with.
Absolutely. And oh, go ahead, Wendy.
So just, I want to build on what Claude said about telling your stories. Some of you know that Robert Wood Johnson also has Project Connect, and we are preparing to go to Washington and Fall River this summer. And one of the things they're helping us with is refining our story. And I'm a pretty good storyteller. I thought I was really good at that.
That's what I was just going. I was going to lift that up when you
But
started
can I
talking
tell you
about
something?
it.
They have helped me refine our message in such a great way that the confidence in being able to present it is 3 times, and I've always had confidence in being able to present it. So you should look into Project Connect. It's a wonderful opportunity, and the training that we're getting for it is amazing.
Yeah, I was just going to say when Claude was talking about the power of storytelling, I mean, Wendy just totally drew us in with the stories that she was telling related to her topic, and we all left the table saying, we're going to do this in our community because of the advocacy that you brought forth just through the power of storytelling, so thank you so much.
And I had help from Robert Wood Johnson.
It
all comes around.
That's what Wendy's saying. She was really shy before this.
Yeah, right.
I have a hard time believing that. That doesn't matter.
You have a hand up?
Okay, go ahead.
One thing that I got out of the first section with the data table, what they're doing in Cambridge, engaging a sector of the community that my coalition has trouble engaging, the business community, is really identifying the value in engagement for them. So, I don't know where he is. The guy. Oh, there you are. He was explaining how they're able to get the business owners to buy into carrying Narcan in their stores, in their coffee shops, because of their overdose data showing the high incidence of overdoses in that area. And that's something that I think is going to work in Lawrence to engage business owners. And the other thing along with the data is, so we have the GIS mapping software and just haven't had the opportunity to really utilize it properly, but when I saw the handbook that you produced, that's
Fabulous intern of ours, I cannot take credit.
fabulous intern of yours, but so motivating because you really hit what it's valuable for when you showed the hot spots of overdoses, but then underneath where the Narcan is being distributed, and it's almost identical except that one little area in the corner. But I think it just shows the capabilities when you have the data and what you can do visually, which will draw in so many other people who aren't data people, who need that, more visual rather than the numbers. So
data translation is so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
did someone pay you to say that?
Really, the data is important.
It is. And then being able to move that data to action how you present that data is really, it can encourage people to move to action. And I think that's the power of presenting it in a way where it actually compels you to move forward.
The realization that fentanyl being a completely different drug, we're going to need different detox and treatment protocols.
Yes.
And what we've done for heroin for years isn't working.
It came up at multiple tables. That topic came up at multiple tables. Glad you looked at that. Thank you. Yes, go on.
All right, so I think that for me, one aha moment was this whole mental health first aid. So we're at a
mental health first aid
program. Because for Lawrence, yes, you have the first responders, right? And then you have the behavioral health providers. But recently, we have some funding from the hospitals, the larger hospital. And they asked us, the UMass program does the prevention. But they're asking us to do something else beyond that addresses the stigma piece, but also talks to the families that are dealing with this, that not necessarily the first responders. And that, to me, seems like a really good tool. Maybe I can sell it. The faith-based communities, they are very active, so that's another group that we can engage. And it doesn't overlap with what you're trying to do, but sort of complement it. And so hopefully we'll be able to sell it together, because I may have some funding for that. But thank you for the ideas, because I got a lot of great ideas on how to sell it from different points.
Great. I think we got some time just for one or two more, and then I'm going to ask you another question. So anything else about what was an aha moment for you? What did you learn new? Okay. How about Carrie?
I really appreciated our friend from just talking about the community health workers as a part of these solutions, and it did seem like it ran throughout many of the discussions, at least, that the idea of lived experience and how to cultivate that
was a
to
common
create
theme.
change around some really tough issues that might be addressed with some.
Seeing the value in that, you're absolutely right. Definitely a theme that I heard as well. Okay, now, so we've had, Claude, last comment, and then we're going to move on to another question.
Actually, I'll defer to Wendy because we're just having a lunchtime conversation about sort of the next thing. And to refinement and to advocacy and to the concept of, say, a white paper, just keep in mind that there may be ways that we, without a whole lot of heavy lift, put together something that demonstrates the sharing of these best practices and how we can amplify. As, again, we're operating as a region, right? And so we can share this with some of our other partners out there within the network of the Cultural Health Prize winning communities or even outside of that. So I would just say to Wendy's point, not just a small idea, but something that could pay bigger dividends, but a white paper of sorts.
We saw the power of working collaboratively when we decided to have a homeless Sabbath, where we asked all the faith-based community people to speak on a particular weekend about the issue of homelessness. And the fact that it was happening throughout the city and everybody was speaking about it. So take that and think about from the Bronx to Manchester, what that kind of power could bring if all our communities were talking or doing something together.
Right, right. So, Claude, you transitioned me very nicely, because that's where I was going to go with, you know, what's the so what? So we have the so what, rather, what's the what now? And white paper is definitely something that I think, you're writing that up there. Yeah, okay, what now? So white paper is one strategy, but let's think about some other strategies that we can do either collectively as a region, or the what now even for your own community. So what are the what nows for you? You were telling, what city, you're talking about possibly doing the safe house. Yeah, other what now, either that we can do as a region or within your community.
So in Wendy's utopian world where there's enough money for everything and everything always works out well, I would bring each one of your communities to my community and put you in front of the powers that be. Because hearing it from us sometimes, oh, it's those Robert Wood Johnson people, they're still talking about da, 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 da. But having somebody from another community saying, this is how I took my big idea and how it's working in my community, that's going to be the turnover. When we first started talking about safe stations, the first time I brought it up to someone in town, without even, I said, there's this great program in New Hampshire, safe stations, want to talk about it, opioid crisis, fire department. They said, no, we can't do it here. Now, he's from the mayor's office. Now we're talking about it.
There we go.
Now we're talking about it, okay? So I think that the power of using one another could really help us.
They kidnapped me and brought me up
You're here.
Brainwashed me.
Sometimes that's what we have to do.
I had the opportunity, so when we did win the prize, we had a session at NACHO. The annual meeting of health officers typically happens in July. It's the largest gathering of local health officials. We get about 1,300 or 1,400 folks. So we did a little bit of an experiment by having Cambridge, New Orleans, and Minneapolis on a panel. That was a small group, standing room only. It then, the following year, became a plenary where we had RWJ as a featured facilitator. I'm thinking about how we could do this, again, taking it to scale. And so what happens is we're going to take this back. We're now talking about national partners, whether it's with the American Public Health Association, our state level partners, ASTO, the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials. I mentioned NACO already. We realize that our federales, our federal partners are our friends. And so it's just figuring about how can we continue to knit our networks. So that to me is an important what next. So we should just think about that. Clearly the challenge is that we come in so many different shapes and sizes and different configurations at the city or even county level, but just thinking about the alignment of our work at the regional level. So that's just something to think about.
Listening to the federal delegation this morning talk in their plenary session, what it does for me, I wasn't able to go around to the table, but it does bring up this thing of incorporating or somehow selling what we're doing also to those people that are not Robert Wood Johnson Culture of Health Prize winners. How do we do that? How do we bring them to the table? As I listened to Catherine talk this morning, and even my question to her, how do we get these unsuspecting groups to be part of the conversation? How do we get other groups, the other communities, neighboring communities that we know are doing similar work to be part of this conversation, whether it is that you're encouraging them to apply to be a Culture of Health Prize winner so that they can be part of this network and we can share more best practices, or whether it is that we talk to other groups. Now, how do we get, or whether it's on a state level or a federal level, how do we get our HHS people talking to our DOE people, talking to our HUD people to get this seamless transition and more money spent better and more efficiently as we do this work?
More, I mean, good questions to ponder. Yeah, absolutely. So what would it take for you, or what do you feel like you need to move to the next step? What is that? Well, money, yeah, we know we need money. But what else? An open door, a carrot. Because I know for some of us, like for example, in Lawrence, getting into the public school is ridiculous. It's not happening. I mean, what is the carrot? What does it take? Because even with something as horrific as a beheading of a student, it didn't open the doors necessarily. It acted on the here and now. Okay, we need to get mental health counselors into the schools to talk to the kids, but after that it's done, it's done. How do we get that conversation continuing? Right. How do we get that
This is a good example of what I said before about us utilizing each other. Because in Fall River, not only are we in the schools, but Marsha works for our organization, but she is the school wellness coordinator. She has an office in the school, she has a cell phone from the school, she has a school email address. So we've managed to do that. So that's information that we could share with you as to how we got that to happen. And I don't think that we ever really had that, time. We're all so interested in sort of the bigger picture that we never get to the little nuts and bolts. What got us into the school?
Right.
So I think that that's something that we could share
Well, the
too.
whole approach is what's in it for them. When you go into a school or school system, it's you have to go in with your hands out giving something as opposed to I'm going to do something and you're going to pay me because everything we do for nothing, cost-wise, as far as the things that I've been involved with. But they come to look on you as very friendly. So as Wendy said, I do not work for the school system, but I work with them.
Yeah.
But it works out very well.
It's a comment up to the side, but just acknowledging the opportunity. So in Cambridge, the school nurses are employed by the health department, but they're embedded in the schools.
Right.
And so
that's
that's
a
a
good
third.
model.
That's a third of our operating budget. So we have reach. And Jose can tell you the work that she's done on the healthy eating, active living side of our portfolio and how it's been integrated within the school culture. So to your question, it's more of a tactical move in figuring out how do you align that. It does take some resources. It does take re-engineering certain structures. But I can say that having a Marsha type function, a link, a liaison record to translate back and forth, that is, we found, to be very effective.
Yeah, we have that. Yeah, we have that model in Orlando as well. So,
So what's the mechanism that would allow us to sort of share these hints and stuff in a timely way? I don't think we all want to get together every month and talk about it, but how do we get this information out to everybody in a timely way? And one of the things, again, Wendy's utopian world, is wouldn't it be cool if we had like a video system that you could send us a question and we would each sort of video a half-an-hour discussion about it, and then we could throw it up on the web and we could look at each other's, I mean, there are ways to do this. Technology is amazing, right? So we just have to sort of find the right nugget to make that happen.
Yeah. We're about to wrap up. I didn't know, Carrie, if you wanted to say any last words before I hand the mic back to you.
Just to keep in mind the larger network, there is an infrastructure in place. You will get added, and you have to opt out if you don't want to be, but for those of you that haven't been on it, there's an e-group, and I really encourage using it as a dialogue. Right now it's sort of one directional, which is me. Every once in a while someone will say something to the full 300 people, but it's an amazing, it's a listserv basically. So there's that. There's a Facebook page. So all this is to say there are other ways to connect with each other. We have quarterly meetings. We'll make sure you get alerted to those. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I heard some themes around how do we influence, whether we influence other communities in our region or other key stakeholders in our own communities to create change. And so again, I just ask you to think about other first responders in other communities that might be the best messengers to talk to your, maybe it is Manchester, and maybe it's, maybe there are other leaders or other mayors that could come talk to your mayor, or this notion of affinity across the communities. And it's not to say that all those folks are constantly showing up as part of the network, but they are easily one call away. So just putting it out there, if you have ideas or have needs, just let us know. It doesn't hurt to ask. And
you can see how incredibly this has been, how helpful this has been, just for you to share what you were learning in your different groups. So thank you for being a recorder. I will, you can
Give us the
officially give
marker.
it back to me, and you know what? I'm gonna pass this.
I know. So that's the final couple of minutes of the day. So we should all think about, do we want to make this an annual, or at least do we want to do this again next year? And if so, is anybody, should think about like if they want to step up and be the organizer, you know, pull together, you know, community rallying the troops. So
You don't want to do it again?
I think I'll pass the baton.
No, but I think it's good that different
I think it's
communities
good
do
that
it.
different communities
Yeah.
do it. I think it's the kind of thing like the NATO presidency, Claude. You do it for 1 year and then you're, you know, or
You two could team up.
Oh, two could team up, or three.
I think,
Oh.
So I think we have Laura has stepped up. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura.
If anybody wants to team up with Lawrence, I'm sure they would welcome them.
well, we'll all be on the committee.
We'll all be on the committee.
And the
Yeah,
committee's just a phone committee, so it's easy.
It's a phone committee.
The Wynn Casino in Everett should be up by then.
Oh. And then we can do a whole thing on gambling,
I
right?
know. All right, so that's awesome. All right, thank you.
And thanks to Josie and thanks to Jose and to Claude for doing such a great job getting us all together and sponsoring this whole thing.
Just, could you please give another round of applause to Jose and lot of work. Really, at the outset, I talked about connecting the dots, so I'm hoping that each one of you at least took one bright idea, one fresh idea, one new idea that you can share in your respective circles. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I also wanted to just thank one last time the federal team. So I'll just say, thank you, Betsy and Catherine and Captain Bersani. So safe travels to one and all, happy spring to one and all, and check your emails. Take care.
And leave your business cards if you have some.
There's some dessert here.
Thank you.